Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Let me ask you a few simple but powerful questions. Have you ever walked into a room in your own home and suddenly felt overwhelmed, distracted, or even a little anxious? Have you ever looked around and thought, why do I feel stuck, even though everything I need is right here? Or maybe you found yourself forgetting why you walked into a room in the first place, only to realize later it wasn't your memory that failed. It was your mind trying to wade through too much clutter. If any of this feels familiar, you are not alone. After the age of 60, we begin to value peace, clarity, and comfort more than ever. We've earned that right. But the truth is, our living space has a bigger impact on our mental clarity, mood, and even creativity than we may realize. A cluttered home can cloud the mind. A disorganized room can fuel restlessness. And too much stuff in the wrong places? It can quietly weigh down our energy. But here's the good news. You don't need a renovation or a fancy interior designer to change that. What you need is a shift in perspective. In today's video, we're going to explore how organizing your space, even in small, practical ways, can lift brain fog, spark creativity, and bring peace back into your daily life. We'll walk room by room. We'll share real stories from people just like you. And we'll uncover 5 key shifts that can help you feel lighter, sharper, and more at ease at home. This isn't about tidying like a perfectionist. It's about building a space that supports your best thinking and your calmest self. So if you've ever wished for more mental clarity, more peace of mind, or simply more joy in the place you live, stick with me. Because today, we're not just organizing drawers. We're organizing our lives from the inside out. There's a moment many of us know too well. You wake up early, the sun pouring gently through the blinds. You've had your coffee. You've got time. You even feel the urge to do something. Maybe finally start that scrapbook, write a few thoughts in your journal, or pick up the watercolor set you haven't touched in years. But instead of reaching for inspiration, you find yourself standing in the middle of the room, unsure. Your eyes scan the surface of the table. Papers, books, old envelopes, a jacket draped over a chair, trinkets from the past. Your mind tries to reach for a thought, but it slips, and just like that, the moment passes. The room isn't messy, you tell yourself, but it's full, too full, and somehow your brain feels just as crowded. After 60, we begin to notice this connection more clearly. We crave peace, stillness, clarity. What many people don't realize is that our external environment mirrors our internal one, and the two feed off each other in a loop. A cluttered space leads to a cluttered mind. A chaotic room fuels mental fatigue. A dim, disorganized corner can echo a sense of stagnation within us. And the most dangerous part? It doesn't happen all at once. It happens inch by inch, as life unfolds and we slowly collect. Things we used to use, things we once loved, things we didn't know where else to put, until one day, the space that once gave us comfort becomes quietly overwhelming. Let me tell you about Eleanor, a retired English teacher in her early 70s living just outside Portland. She had always been a creative spirit, loved poetry, painted in her spare time, baked like an artist. But after her husband passed, something changed. She stayed in the same home, surrounded by memories. She didn't throw anything away, not because she needed it, but because it felt wrong to let go. Over time, her home filled with gentle weight, stacks of old lesson plans, faded cookbooks, half-used craft supplies, unopened mail, clothes that no longer fit but held stories. There was no mess, only layers of memory. But the creativity, the spark, it faded. Eleanor would sit at the kitchen table, pen in hand, paper ready, and nothing came. It's like my mind was fogged over, she told me once. I didn't feel sad, just stuck. One day, her daughter visited and gently asked, "Mom, what if the house is too full for your thoughts to land?" That simple question changed everything. Science supports this too. Research shows that visual clutter competes for your brain's attention, reducing focus, memory, and even emotional regulation. Your brain actually has to filter out every object you see, whether or not you're paying attention to it. That means even something as simple as an overstuffed bookshelf, a crowded countertop, or a drawer that doesn't close easily is draining your mental energy. And as we get older, when cognitive load matters more than ever, this becomes critical. But here's the beautiful part. Just as your environment can overwhelm your brain, it can also support it, soothe it, and awaken it. When Eleanor started to make space, clearing one small corner at a time, she began to feel different. Not rushed, not guilty, just lighter. She kept one box of her husband's old letters and let go of the rest. She donated old books, reorganized her kitchen drawers, and opened up the space near the window where she used to write. She added a plant, lit a candle, hung up one of her paintings. And one morning, after months of fog, she sat at the same kitchen table and wrote her first poem in years. Clearing the room, she said, was like clearing a path through my mind. So ask yourself gently today, what space in your home no longer feels peaceful? What corner is quietly stealing your clarity? What pile of papers and used chair or overstuffed cabinet is taking up more than just physical space? You don't need to overhaul your home. You just need to begin. Because when you organize with intention, you create a home that breathes with you, not against you. And in that space, your thoughts, your creativity, your calm, they'll have room to grow again. In the next section, we'll begin with the first transformation, how one woman changed her mornings by reimagining her kitchen space, and how it brought back not just clarity, but joy. Let me take you into the home of Barbara, a 67-year-old grandmother, retired nurse, and cinnamon roll enthusiast. Her kitchen had always been a heart of her home, a place filled with the smells of vanilla, baked apples, and fresh coffee. Her grandkids loved to sit at the counter and talk while she cooked. There were laughter-filled mornings and quiet evenings with a cup of tea. But somewhere along the way, the kitchen stopped feeling like a joyful place. It wasn't anything dramatic, just the slow buildup of years. A cabinet overflowing with old spice jars, a drawer stuffed with 5 different can openers, stacks of recipe printouts leaning against the fridge, too many mugs, too many just-in-case items. And Barbara, who had once floated through her kitchen with ease, now found herself avoiding it. I used to love baking, she said softly one afternoon, but now, just finding a whisk makes me tired. It wasn't laziness. It wasn't age. It was clutter fatigue, something so many people experience but rarely name. Every time Barbara stepped into the kitchen, her brain had to process dozens of visual cues. Where's the sugar? Which drawer is the spatula in? Why is the blender cord tangled with the salad spinner? This mental load adds up, and when your brain is already working harder to process memory, focus, and physical movement, it doesn't take much for fatigue to set in. The result? She cooked less, hosted less, smiled less, until one rainy Saturday, Barbara's neighbor and longtime friend, Claire, came over with a simple idea. What if we made the space work for who you are now? She asked. Not who Barbara used to be, not the young mom juggling dinner and homework, but the woman she is today, wiser, more intentional, craving ease over effort. So they started small. One drawer, the one with everything. They emptied it onto the counter. Barbara held each item and asked herself, do I use this? Does this make cooking easier or harder? Is this something I buy again today? What stayed was intentional. What left was freeing. From there, they moved the cabinets. Barbara donated duplicate items, replaced heavy pots with lighter ones, grouped items by purpose, baking tools in one basket, breakfast items in one drawer, her favorite tea within easy reach. They cleared the countertops of everything except the essentials and a small vase of fresh flowers. And then, Barbara did something she hadn't done in months. She baked banana bread. I didn't even realize how heavy the kitchen had felt, she told me later, until it felt light again. It wasn't just about clean counters or tidy shelves. It was about reclaiming her joy in that space, rediscovering the comfort of making something with her hands, while her mind felt calm and clear. Barbara began cooking more, not extravagant meals, but simple, comforting ones. She invited her grandkids over again. They sat at the counter, just like before, laughing and licking spoons. And she smiled more than she had in a long time. Here's what you can take from Barbara's journey. Start small. Pick one drawer or one surface. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for peace. Group items by purpose. Make it easy to find what you use most often. Let go of duplicates and someday tools. You don't need 3 apple corers or that pasta maker you've used once. Keep counters mostly clear. Visual space creates mental space. Make it beautiful. Add a flower, a candle, a favorite photo, something that brings a smile. The kitchen isn't just for cooking. It's where we nourish our body, yes, but also our memory, our mood, our sense of purpose. And when that space is calm and open, so are we. So let me ask you, what would your kitchen feel like if it matched your life today, not your life from 20 years ago? Would it feel easier to move? Would you feel more inspired to cook, to host, to smile? You don't need a new kitchen. You just need a kitchen that serves who you are now. And sometimes, organizing a drawer is all it takes to remember the joy waiting underneath. In the next section, we'll visit Daniel, a retired school principal who learned that his overstuffed home office wasn't just blocking his desk, but also blocking his ability to focus and create. Let me introduce you to Daniel, a 71-year-old retired school principal from Colorado. Even after retirement, Daniel kept his home office almost exactly the way it had been during his working years. Same wooden desk, same overflowing bookshelves, same tall filing cabinet with drawers that creaked when pulled. In the beginning, the room felt familiar, comforting, a space full of memories. But as time went on, Daniel found himself avoiding it. He still had ideas. He wanted to write short stories for his grandchildren. He had journals full of life experiences he hoped to turn into something meaningful. But every time he sat down at his desk, something strange happened. He would open his notebook, stare at the page, and nothing would come. His thoughts, once so sharp and ordered, felt clouded, scattered. I thought maybe my brain was getting older, Daniel admitted. But then I realized maybe it wasn't my brain. Maybe it was my space. One afternoon, his son Mark stopped by. Daniel gestured toward the desk, chuckling, "It's my thinking corner. Except lately, it's not doing much thinking." Mark took a slow look around the room. Stacks of old-school reports, folders with yellowing labels, binders from past conferences, teaching manuals he hadn't touched in a decade, a tangle of cables under the desk, notebooks stacked 3 deep. "Dad," Mark said gently, "you're not running a school anymore. What if this room helped you dream instead of remember?" That question stayed with Daniel for days. Eventually, on a quiet Sunday morning, he stood in the doorway of his office with a trash bag in one hand and a sense of purpose in the other. He wasn't throwing away the past. He was making space for what mattered now. Daniel began with the surface of the desk. Gone were the 10 pens, the dusty awards, the cracked paperweights. He kept only what he needed: a notepad, a favorite fountain pen, and a small photo of his wife smiling at the Grand Canyon. Then he turned to the shelves. Old school manuals were donated to a teaching center. Outdated electronics were recycled. Books he no longer connected with were boxed up and gifted to the library. Each decision wasn't easy, but with every cleared inch, Daniel noticed something. His mind felt lighter. Within a week, he had transformed the space. He added a small plant beside the window, placed a lamp with warm light for cozy afternoons, cleared space on the wall to pin up ideas and photos of his grandchildren, the ones he wanted to write for, and most importantly, he no longer felt mentally blocked. He began waking up early again, brewing coffee, and sitting down at the desk not with pressure, but with curiosity. The stories came slowly at first, but they came. Daniel's transformation is something many of us need, especially as we transition into new chapters of life. We often hold on to spaces that reflect who we used to be, but those same spaces can start to push against us if we don't allow them to evolve. Here's what Daniel learned, and what you can try too. Let your space reflect your present, not your past. Keep the memories, but let go of the old roles you no longer need to play. Clear your desk surface completely, then add back only what you truly use. A clean surface invites clear thought. Use light intentionally. Natural light or a soft desk lamp can completely shift your mood. Design with inspiration in mind. Add a photo, a quote, or a small object that reminds you of why you sit down to think or create. Remember, organization is not about being perfect. It's about feeling free. Daniel now calls his office the dreaming room. It's no longer a place of responsibility. It's a place of reflection, writing, and creativity. He says, when I let go of the clutter from who I was, I made space for who I still get to be. So let me ask you, is there a corner in your home, a desk, a table, a small room that holds more of your past and your present? What would happen if that space were cleared? What ideas might return? What calm might settle in? Because sometimes the most powerful shift is not what we add, but what we choose to let go of. In the next section, we'll visit Linda, who discovered that transforming her bedroom into a sanctuary helped her sleep more deeply and think more clearly every single day. Now, let's step into the quiet world of Linda, a 69-year-old retired librarian from New England. Linda is someone who always appreciated stillness. She found beauty in a quiet morning, a well-made bed, a soft light in the evening. But lately, even in the calm of her home, she found herself struggling to sleep. It wasn't that I was tossing and turning all night, she told me. It was more like I'd lie there feeling wired. My mind kept running in circles. She tried herbal teas, stopped using her phone after dinner, even started journaling before bed. But the restlessness remained. Then one evening, as she was cleaning up, she looked around her bedroom and saw it differently. It wasn't chaotic, but it was cluttered. Piles of unread books by the bedside, a dresser top filled with lotions, receipts, and jewelry she hadn't worn in months. A chair in the corner buried in laundry and half-folded quilts. Even the artwork on the walls didn't feel soothing, just busy. I realized my bedroom wasn't a place of rest anymore, she said. It was just another room trying to hold too much of my life. That night, she made a decision. If I want my mind to rest, I have to let my space rest first. And so, the next morning, she began to transform her bedroom into what she now calls her sanctuary of simplicity. She started with the surfaces, because visual clutter, even if subtle, creates mental noise. She cleared her nightstand of everything except a small lamp, a coaster for tea, and a single book. She sorted through the books on the floor, kept 2, donated the rest. She placed a basket at the foot of the bed for her extra blanket and robe, so they wouldn't end up draped on the chair. She finally hung a soft watercolor painting that had been sitting in her closet, a peaceful lakeside view that made her exhale every time she looked at it. Then she turned to her closet and drawers, not to empty them, but to create flow. Linda noticed something fascinating. The more she let go of items she didn't use, old scarves, extra slippers, mismatched socks, the quieter the room felt, almost as if her thoughts had more space to breathe. Within a few days, Linda began sleeping better. Not just longer, but deeper. Her mind didn't rush in the dark hours. Her chest felt looser. Her mornings began without the fog she'd grown used to. I didn't realize how much my environment was whispering to my mind, she told me. Once the noise stopped, I could rest. There's science to this, too. Studies show that a cluttered bedroom can raise cortisol levels, the hormone associated with stress. Even small amount of visual clutter at night can delay the body's ability to fully wind down. The brain perceives mess as unfinished business, which keeps it alert, even when we long for sleep. And after 60, when sleep becomes more precious, more fragile, this matters more than ever. Here's what Linda now suggests to friends who ask her how she changed things. Keep your nightstand nearly empty. Less visual input equals a calmer mind at bedtime. Use soft lighting. Warm bulbs, small lamps, and no overhead glare make a difference. Choose calming colors. Muted tones, blues, creams, earth tones send a quiet message of safety. Create a bedtime ritual corner. One chair, one blanket, one book, a place to slow down. Let your bed be the centerpiece. Make it every morning, not out of duty, but as a gift to your future self. Linda says her favorite part now is turning down the bed at night. She puts on soft instrumental music, lights her lavender candle, and then, before she gets under the covers, she whispers to herself, "You've done enough. Now rest." It's a ritual that sounds simple, but has changed everything. So let me ask you, Is your bedroom a place of peace, or just another room filled with things to sort out? If it's not feeding your rest, could it be rearranged to do so? Because your brain doesn't just rest when you close your eyes. It begins to rest the moment you enter a space that tells it, you are safe, you are done for the day, you are allowed to let go. And that kind of space, you can create it. One drawer, one lamp, one breath at a time. In the next section, we'll walk through a transformation in the living room, where one couple learned that simplifying their shared space brought them closer together and helped them think, laugh, and connect more deeply. Let me take you inside the home of Frank and Denise, a couple in their early 70s, married for nearly 50 years and living in a cozy ranch-style house in Tennessee. Their living room had seen everything. Birthday parties, grandchildren's first steps, late-night movies, quiet Sunday mornings. It was a space filled with memories, but also filled, period. The sofa was covered in cushions, some decorative, some just old. The coffee table was stacked with magazines, coasters, crossword puzzles, a half-knitted scarf. There were remote controls for 3 different devices, a basket of old chargers, and framed photos crowding every shelf. There was love in the room, but not much space. One evening, Denise turned to Frank after dinner and said, half laughing, half exhausted, "Do you ever feel like we live in a museum of our own life?" Frank chuckled. "Yeah, and I think I keep tripping over the exhibits." They weren't unhappy, but something felt off. The room that was supposed to invite conversation and connection had become visually noisy. They didn't always know where to sit comfortably. They kept the TV on more often, not out of interest, but to fill the silence. They rarely just talked the way they used to, not like in the early years, when the living room felt like the center of their little world. And then Denise asked a quiet question. What if we made this space feel lighter, not just for our bodies, but for our minds? The next morning, they made a pact, not to redecorate, not to throw everything out, but to make space for each other again. They started with the coffee table. They cleared everything off. Every magazine, every little dish, every just-in-case item. They placed a small woven tray in the center with just 3 things: a candle, a small bowl of mints, a notepad with a pen for shared thoughts or reminders. Then they moved to the seating area. They removed the extra throw pillows that had to be constantly adjusted or pushed aside. They donated a dusty armchair no one used anymore. They rearranged the furniture slightly, not to match a catalog, but to face each other more easily. Suddenly, when they sat down, it didn't feel like facing a screen. It felt like facing each other. Frank noticed it first. One night, as they sat with a cup of tea, he said, "It feels quieter in here. Like I can hear you more clearly, even when you're not speaking." And it was true. With less clutter around them, their conversations flowed differently. More eye contact, more laughter, more stories from old memories they hadn't talked about in years. The room no longer pulled their attention away. It invited it back to each other. Here's what Frank and Denise learned along the way, and what you might try. Simplify the surfaces. A cluttered table can crowd your attention. Keep only what serves your daily rhythm. Create a conversation zone. Arrange chairs or the sofa to face inward, not just a TV. Limit visual stimulation. Too many colors, frames, and decorations can quietly drain your mental focus. Make room to breathe. Leave space around furniture to move freely and feel less boxed in. Design for togetherness. Ask yourself, can we sit, talk, and share comfortably in this room? Frank eventually added a small bookshelf by the window and filled it with just a few of their favorite reads. No more piles on the floor. Denise kept a journal nearby where she jots down thoughts from their evening talks. They still watch TV. They still have grandkids over who leave toys and giggles behind. But now, every time they tidy up, it's with this question in mind. Does this space help us feel closer or just busier? And more often than not, they choose closeness. So now I ask you, what would your living room feel like if it were designed for connection, not just collection? What conversations might return? What quiet moments might become precious again? Because a living room is more than a room. It's a stage for memories, for laughter, for comfort. And when you clear the stage, The people become the stars again. In the next section, we'll visit Sylvia, a vibrant widow who learned that even her hallway, yes, her hallway, was impacting her focus, and how creating open paths helped her feel mentally clearer and physically safer every single day. Meet Sylvia, a 74-year-old widow living in a quiet home near the edge of town. She's full of energy, known for her sense of humor and vibrant scarves. But despite her lively spirit, something had been weighing her down, though she didn't fully realize it at first. It wasn't her health. It wasn't loneliness. It was her hallway. That narrow space between her bedroom and the kitchen, just 12 steps long, had slowly become a corridor of congestion. A small side table with unopened mail, a coat rack with scarves from every season, a basket of "I'll sort through it later" magazines, a leaning vacuum that hadn't found a better home, a pair of shoes, a folding chair, a stack of books, all of it tucked along the edges, but slowly closing in. "I didn't think it mattered," Sylvia said. "I mean, it's just a hallway. I don't spend time there." But here's what she hadn't noticed. She was beginning to walk differently, a little slower, a little more cautious, eyes always scanning the floor. And with every pass through the hallway, her mind felt just a little more scattered. It wasn't until one evening when she stubbed her toe on a cardboard box that something clicked. She froze mid-step, not just from the pain, but from the realization. This hallway used to feel like nothing. Now it feels like a threat. She stood there, breathing, thinking, and then asked herself, if I can't walk through my own home freely, what else am I hesitating about? The next day, Sylvia rolled up her sleeves and got to work. She didn't start with deep cleaning or decorating. She started with removing. The unused vacuum went to closet. The mail was sorted and recycled. The extra coats were donated. The folding chair was returned to the garage. She cleared the table completely, then eventually removed it altogether. For the first time in years, her hallway was empty, but it didn't feel bare. It felt liberating. That night, as she walked from the kitchen to her bedroom, something felt different. Her shoulders loosened, her steps flowed, and her thoughts, usually cluttered by the time she got ready for bed, felt strangely light. She realized she'd been unknowingly navigating mental obstacles just as much as physical ones. Every corner filled with stuff to deal with later was quietly echoing in her brain. Don't forget this. You need to finish that. This still isn't handled. But now, her brain had space to breathe. Sylvia made a new rule for herself. If I don't need to dodge it, I don't need to keep it there. It became her quiet mantra. And what began in the hallways spread to the other transition spaces in her home. Doorways, entryways, stairwells. The spaces she once overlooked now became spaces she respected. Not because they were grand, but because they were pathways. And when the paths were open, her thoughts flowed more easily. Her confidence while walking improved. Even her reflexes seemed sharper. Here's what Sylvia now recommends to friends, especially those who've had a fall or fear of falling. Walk your home with fresh eyes. Ask, where do I slow down, squeeze sideways, or hesitate? Keep walkways clear. Even small obstacles, shoes, baskets, furniture corners, can break your flow. Respect the in-between spaces. Hallways, thresholds, door frames. They shape how you move through your home and your day. Let go of just-in-case clutter. If it hasn't moved in 6 months, it's probably not helping you move either. Give your body room to breathe. Movement isn't just physical, it's emotional. Today, Sylvia walks with ease again. Not just through her hallway, but through her morning routines, her daily habits, her thoughts. She says, I used to think peace was about quiet. Now I think it's about space. And in that space, she's rediscovered something powerful, momentum. Because when the paths in your home are clear, your mind doesn't have to detour. Your attention doesn't have to split. And your energy doesn't have to shrink just to make it through the day. So let me ask you one final question. What pathway in your home is asking for attention? Not because it's messy, but because it's slowing you down. Sometimes, the smallest change, a box removed, a corner cleared, a table pushed aside, can unlock something deeper, a sense of ease, a clearer thought, a renewed sense of movement, both in body and mind. And all it takes is the courage to say, this space matters. And so do I. In the final part of this journey, we'll gently gather everything we've explored from kitchen to hallway and reflect on how organizing your space, step by step, can help you live with more clarity, creativity, and calm every day. So here we are at the end of this journey together. But really, it's just the beginning of something much more personal and powerful. Over the past few chapters, we stepped inside real homes. Not perfect homes, not magazine homes, but lived-in spaces full of history, full of love, and sometimes full of quiet clutter. We met Barbara, who reclaimed her joy in baking by clearing her kitchen. Daniel, who made space to write again by transforming his office. Linda, who finally found restful sleep in a bedroom designed for peace. Frank and Denise, who turned down the noise and turned up their connection. And Sylvia, who discovered that the path to clarity might just begin with a hallway. And through their stories, we've seen a simple, beautiful truth. When we clear our space, we also clear our minds. When we simplify our surroundings, we give our thoughts more room to breathe. And when our home reflects who we are now, not just who we used to be, it becomes a place where we can truly live, not just exist. After 60, clarity becomes more than a convenience. It becomes a gift. A clear home supports clearer thoughts, and clearer thoughts support better decisions, deeper conversations, more creativity, and even better sleep. But this isn't about perfection. It's not about keeping your home spotless or rigid. It's about being gentle and intentional with what surrounds you, because it all speaks to your mind, your mood, your energy. You don't need to do it all at once. Just begin. Clear one surface. Tidy one drawer. Rethink one corner. And then watch what happens. Not just in your home, but in your spirit. Let me ask you this. What space in your home has been silently asking for change? Is it a cluttered entryway? A bedroom that never truly rests? A kitchen you no longer enjoy being in? What would happen if you gave that space attention, not out of frustration, but out of care? Because that's really what organizing is about. Not control, not aesthetics, but care. Care for your body, your thoughts, your peace of mind. Care for the future version of you, who deserves to move through life with lightness and clarity. So if today's video has inspired you, if it's planted a seed or opened a new way of looking at your surroundings, let me know. Leave a comment below. Which space are you most excited to transform first? The kitchen? Your workspace? Maybe just that one drawer by the bed? I read every comment, and your stories keep this channel growing. And if this message could help someone you love, maybe a parent, a friend, or a neighbor, please share it. You never know whose day you might gently shift with a video like this. And of course, if you haven't yet, please subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss more stories, more tools, and more heartwarming ideas like this one. Thank you for being here, for choosing calm over chaos, for taking the first step, one drawer, one room, one quiet breath at a time. You deserve a home that supports the best of who you are, and it's never too late to create that. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep your space clear and your heart even clearer.